Hello everyone. Welcome to our online celebration for the second International Day of Conscience. We are so excited to share this celebration with you all. Your participation is what makes this day special. We have accomplished so much in the past year, bringing together friends from around the world to share stories inspired by their conscience, as we inspire and highlight world leaders' policies and experiences based on good conscience. All of your positivity has been gathered through the ICDAY virtual events in response to the UN days throughout the year. Now, let's review some of the accomplishments we've made together.
Conscience is the origin of all beings, the fire of life, the source of goodness, and the pivot of peace. Since the COVID-19 crisis, the world has experienced the biggest challenge since World War II. We need the power of conscience more than ever to rebalance our world.
The day of 5th April, from now on,
The United Nations declared April 5th as the International Day of Conscience in July 2019. Since then, FOPAL has engaged in various events to promote this day and inspire conscience-driven actions. Since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, FOPAL has started to hold virtual events to emphasize the importance of conscience and work together with people around the world for a peaceful and conscience-guided world. Ever since the first International Day of Conscience, over 22 virtual events have been conducted in celebration of various United Nations days with an emphasis on conscience. These events have been live-streamed on ICDAY's YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. To date, ICDAY has attracted over 3.3 million views worldwide on its social media platforms. Not only have civil society organizations actively promoted the International Day of Conscience, the United Nations system also highlights its importance. The Executive Board of Unesco, in its Decision 209-X29, requested the Director General to mark the International Day of Conscience to be held annually on the 5th of April at UNESCO headquarters, Paris, and in UNESCO field offices with the participation of member states and other partners. We are very glad to have many influential leaders joining our ICDAY events over the past year, injecting powerful positive energy into our planet to stabilize the world. We are thankful to United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres for sending us his video messages in support of our events. We look forward to a more successful year ahead. Let's continue to spread the message of conscience to every citizen and every corner of the world. With conscience comes a peaceful world. With happiness comes joyful families.
UNESCO provides a powerful voice around the world, and we are pleased that they have committed to sharing the voice of conscience around the world. With their assistance, we are confident that the concept of fostering a culture of peace with love and conscience will be realized through education. As Dr. Hong has previously expressed the idea that a good culture leads to a good education is the foundation for a good economy, and a good economy will lead to harmony. We'd now like to invite Dr. Hong Daozi, President of the Federation of World Peace and Love, to share his thoughts on the importance of this special day.
Distinguished guests, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, good day. Today is a special day. Let us pause for a moment of silence to reflect with gratitude upon our past, present, and future. On July 25th, 2019, the United Nations adopted the resolution promoting the culture of peace with love and conscience, designating April 5th as the International Day of Conscience, and today marks the second International Day of Conscience. The Federation of World Peace and Love has been promoting the culture of peace with love and conscience around the world through various activities since it started fostering the movement of an era of conscience in 2014. It is hoped that everyone will do good deeds, spread seeds of kindness across the planet, and encourage others to do the same, making the butterfly effect of positivity take flight for the betterment of the world. I would like to thank many international friends and organizations, countries, and the United Nations for their endeavors as our collective efforts have made the International Day of Conscience possible. It is a day of conscience for all humanity. This day belongs to every world citizen and has a profound meaning. Over the past 2 years, the world has changed rapidly, and people's emotions have fluctuated. The coronavirus has encroached onto our daily lives since the beginning of 2020. Stability and prosperity have been replaced by anxiety and fear. The unexpected outbreak has brought humankind unprecedented challenges and crises, causing our planet to plunge into silence and exacerbating people's feelings of uncertainty about the future. With countries tightening their borders, the distances between people and between nations have increased. How do we restore security and tranquility while the world is filled with tension, anxiety, and depression? The best remedy is to realize conscience, love, and human rights. Love is a driving force of human life, and conscience empowers love. With conscience and love, we will respect and protect human rights. Conscience, love, and human rights are the most important elements that stabilize us, our families, and the world. They are also the most important missions and values in life. Conscience is innate and a priceless treasure. It is the beauty of human hearts. If you take a minute of silence each day, look in the mirror, reflect on yourself, and correct your mistakes, then you may see it. Conscience is like a fragrant flower. If you take a minute of peace to appreciate what you have and the kindness you have received from others, you may smell it. Conscience is the built-in alarm. If you are willing to listen with a quiet heart, it will guide you to distinguish good from bad, right from wrong, and true from false, as well as lead you to choose the right path to happiness and avoid tragedies. Conscience is our best ally, residing deep inside our hearts, giving us courage, hope, and energy. It enables people to understand, respect, help, and tolerate one another. It also gives them wisdom to face challenges and overcome difficulties. Conscience and love complement each other, and through kind hearts and good deeds, love will spread all over the world. When we were given the opportunity to be born into this world in this life, we all made commitments to heaven and our conscience. When our lives come to an end, what we have done in this life will be evaluated against the criteria of conscience. There is an old Chinese saying, "Conscience reflects the law of heaven. Whatever we are doing, heaven is watching us." This reminds us that conscience is the ultimate judge of the universe, superseding all the laws and regulations in this world. The so-called judgment or karma in religious beliefs is the overall evaluation of one's doings in a lifetime. No one can escape the ultimate judgment by heaven. To think kind thoughts, speak kind words, and do good deeds is the correct attitude and principle we should adhere to in handling people and things. Conscience is the guide for our daily actions. The awakening of conscience is the crucial key to stabilizing people's hearts and the world. It is important to promote conscience education and make such an education take root in children. This will allow conscience, love, and peace to become the main elements in people's thoughts. This is a very important project of foundation construction and requires the commitment of experts and scholars in education, teachers, and principals, as well as the attention of leaders from all walks of life, who set an example by incorporating conscience into their cultures through personal actions in various ways, and further developing a conscience-based social education. When human beings develop a mainstream culture of conscience, love, and peace through education, a conscience-based society and country will naturally take shape. As more people awaken to their conscience, they will realize that the true goodness is the harmonious coexistence among people, among communities, among nations, and between humans and nature. In this way, human beings will have the opportunity to break away from the mentality of pursuing rapid technological development and competition for profit, and they will change from competition to cooperation. When people start to help and love each other, the world will develop harmoniously, steadily, and sustainably. Through the awakening of conscience, knowledge and wisdom will be combined, and we can change the world for the better with conscience and love. We hope people will take on the responsibility of building a conscience-driven education and a culture of conscience for themselves and for the world. This is the most genuine and important value of the continuity of life. The challenges we currently face as a human race are caused by what we did in the past. We should reflect on the fact that our future depends on our actions today, that all of us hold the key to the future, and that conscience allows us to turn this key of hope. Conscience is not a fictional term. It is immediately actionable. In the hustle and bustle of everyday life, please take a moment of peace to allow your awakened conscience to be with you at all times, guiding you to do good and stop evil. We need to take action and reflect on ourselves daily. Through self-reflection, we will find our motivation and turn that motivation into commitment. Then we can further use that commitment to inspire action. This way, we can improve ourselves, influence others, and contribute to society for the benefit of the world. The world is volatile, but we can secure our hearts with oneness, which is conscience. Things change as the circumstances change, but we should adhere to conscience and noble deeds regardless of changes in circumstances. Only our conscience can save our souls, and only conscience can save our world. I invite you all to start practicing love and conscience in everything you do and inspire those around you to realize the era of conscience, to jointly create a world of happiness for all humanity. Let us move forward happily together for a world of peace. Let us work together to give humanity an opportunity to move towards peace and sustainability and share a happy, fulfilling, and true era of conscience. May peace prevail on earth. May everyone be blessed with peace and happiness. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Hong. Can you visualize the picture Dr. Hong created in the speech? Conscience is like a fragrant flower. If you take a minute to calm yourself and find peace by appreciating what you have and the kindness that you have received from others, you may smell it. There are fragrant flowers all around us, and through our kind acts, we can plant more flourishing flowers together. Many of our world leaders have also sent in their messages in support of this special celebration. Let's hear from these visionary leaders of conscience.
Today we celebrate for the second time the Universal Day of Conscience. I think this is a great idea and a great initiative for Dr. Hong, because if everybody follows his own conscience, the world will become better and more peaceful every day.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, friends of FAUPAL. Today is a very important day as we celebrate the International Day of Conscience. And we know how much FAUPAL has been active in making us think differently, in making us do things with our conscience. The past year, globally, humanity has experienced a serious pandemic. This pandemic has taken the whole world by surprise, has locked us all up in our houses, and it has created havoc, and so many people have lost their lives. We have started to look at why and how this pandemic started. If we go by the present explanations given by scientists, it is increasingly being said that this virus has moved from animals to humans. The question we have to ask ourselves, how come we have reached this situation? It is also being said that this pandemic will not be the last because of the way we are destroying the forest and the way we are coming closer to wild animals. We have to think the way we consume. We have to think the way we are destroying the planet. We have to really think of the way we do business, because the way we are overshooting our consumption, it's as if we have 4 planets and yet we only have 1 planet. And we have to really think, like last year when many people were locked into their houses, how nature took over our cities. I think nature is trying to tell us a very important message, that human beings, we are all interconnected to each other. As a human race, we are very much part of this ecosystem that nature has for us. We are not out of this ecosystem. We are very much part of it. And I think it is time to reconcile with this. It is time to reconcile how we consume. It is time to reconcile why we keep on polluting the planet. If this pandemic is not the last, it means there are many more to come. And we have seen how diseases are spreading because of the impact of climate change. I'm convinced that climate change has something to do with this pandemic. But how do we address climate change? How do we do things differently? How we stop emission? How we use tools to adapt? These are questions we have to ask ourselves. It is time to rethink the way we do business. It is time to rethink the way we consume. It is time to think how we can do things with our conscience, how we think more of our neighbors, how we care for them, how we care for nature, how we care for all lives around us, animal, plant, everything. And I think today is the day to rethink the way we do business. And I think today is the day that we have to celebrate our conscience. and how we use the International Day for Conscience to spread positive influence of the way our conscience operate and how we should listen to our conscience. So all the very best to Faupal for addressing this and for taking us down this road to make us pause and think how our actions should be conscious driven. I thank you for your attention.
Mă bucur foarte mult că Organizația Națiunilor Unite a constituit o zi internațională cu denumirea Ziua Conștiinței. În cele din urmă, dacă medităm, omul prezintă memoria, prezintă rațiunea și prezintă ceea ce spunem noi, inima, morala, sentimentele și mai departe. Deci, în noțiunea de conștiință, este o noțiune foarte vastă. Este conștiința istorică, conștiința națională, conștiința de sine, conștiința colectivă și așa mai departe. Deci, dacă reușim în domeniul acesta să ne dezvoltăm, oamenii să corespundă cerințelor societății de astăzi, să spunem, atunci noi reușim și celelalte lucruri, și economice, și sociale, și tot cu ce se confruntă omul în viața lui. În cele din urmă, deosebirea noastră de animal este anume prin ceea că noi posedăm conștiință. Dacă iei conștiință, cum spunea un om de cultură, eu în fiecare zi sunt pus în fața unei dileme, în diferite situații critice, să devină animal. Vreau că, întâlnindu-se cu nedreptate, cu o abatere, cu o crimă și mai departe. Dar mă mențin ca om în rezultatul educației în familie, în rezultatul religiei, în rezultatul deci, culturii, în rezultatul unor tradiții, obiceiuri și mai departe. De aceea folosim această zi ca să explicăm această oamenilor și ne explicăm nouă înșine că trebuie să fim altfel. Dacă vrem să reușim, să ne dezvoltăm, să nu ne degradăm, cum vedem în momente, în zilele de astăzi, când trăim în condiții de pandemie, câte calități ale omului și a societății s-au descoperit a fi foarte negative, ca abatere. Cele mai bogate țări au acaparat toate vaccinele, oricum la 95%, alții s-au blocat, cei mai bogați însăși s-au făcut rezerve de vaccinare. Societatea s-a dovedit nu-i pregătită, fiindcă este medicină și este societatea. În multe lucruri, ca să depășim această pandemie, societatea trebuie să fie mai mobilizată. În rezultatul lipsii de educație, în rezultatul culturii, în rezultatul conștiinței scăzute, noi avem probleme foarte mari în ziua de astăzi. Pentru a depăși toate aceste lucruri, trebuie să revenim la aceste noțiuni de educație, de conștiință, prin școală, prin educație, prin finanțare. Noi trebuie să reducem banii care se duc în armare. Dăm de banii aceștia educație și medicinii. Și atunci societatea va fi alta. Sper că această zi ne-a dat un imbold. Nu numai să gândim, dar să acționăm în direcția aceasta și doresc tuturor, și oamenilor, și guvernanților, și cei care hotărăsc soartele oamenilor, ca să gândească, să mediteze la tema aceasta și să acționeze în direcția mobilizării oamenilor, creării alte condiții de bunăvoință și înțelegere în societate. Felicitări și succes!
Today, we celebrate the International Day of Conscience. I would therefore begin by wishing you all, my brothers and sisters out there in the world, a very happy and productive International Day of Conscience. I would also like to congratulate my good friend, Dr. Hong Tao-che, and members of the Federation of World Peace and Love, FOPAL, for dedicating their lives to the promotion of love and peace in the world through the ringing of the bell of peace, cultural exchanges, and now through the promotion of the human conscience, which is referred to in the preamble as well as Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and which Dr. Hong has aptly described as the compass of life, the wellspring of wisdom, the foundation of social solidarity, and a power that can save the world. To many, conscience is referred to as the tiny, gentle voice embedded in every human heart by the very same mighty and the loving hands that created the wonderfully awesome universe and all bodies and matter within it, held together in the most beautifully orderly and awesome manner. As a partner and supporter of FOPAL's great efforts in this global mission, the Republic of Kiribati is happy to join this celebration together with other partner countries, in particular the Kingdom of Bahrain, which had provided good leadership in the intergovernmental negotiations in New York 2 years ago that led to the United Nations Declaration of April 5th as the International Day of Conscience. Today, we are reminded that the world can and should be a much better place if only we commit ourselves individually and collectively to listen faithfully to the guidance and directions of that same tiny, gentle voice that the sun, the moon, the heavenly bodies, the atoms and molecules that make up the universe have faithfully and unfailingly followed since the beginning of time. I believe many of the human sufferings we see today are the result of the failures and neglects of other people to follow the dictates of their conscience, especially those in powerful positions whose decisions can impact on the health, well-being, and lives of tens, hundreds, thousands, millions, or billions of people. A father or mother that fails to take heed of the guidance of his or her conscience would naturally end up with a family or home lacking in the love, peace, and happiness needed for a sound and positive development of children and youth in preparation for a peaceful, happy, and meaningful adult life. A president or prime minister who faithfully follows his or her conscience in the decisions he or she makes about his or her country has a better chance of transforming his or her country into a peaceful, prosperous, and happy nation than one who ignores the inner gentle voice of his or her own conscience and listens more to other loud noises of self-interest, greed, hatred, and anger. I believe the same applies for all leadership positions in every human organization, large or small, traditional or modern, local or global. Even at the individual and personal level, a person who tries to hear and follow the gentle voice of his or her heart has a good chance of being filled with abundant peace, joy, and happiness, which he or she can share out to help lighten the path of those who have lost their way in life. I believe our home planet, Earth, and the human family are faced with many serious problems, and these will continue to worsen, no matter how many laws, institutions, and agendas are launched, established, and mobilized at the local, national, regional, and international levels aimed at reversing such worrying trends. As long as people continue to turn away from their conscience and listen more to the louder voices that go against conscience, we will continue to live in a world troubled by continuing and increasing wars, conflicts, hunger, poverty, climate change, pandemics, terrorism, racism, extremism, and human trafficking, to name a few. To save the planet and humanity from this future catastrophe and to get things back on the right path, we need not a one-time revolution, a revolution that does not the creation of a few international body or convention, nor the invention of a new will, nor the organization of 1 million people rallying in the capital cities of the world, but one that must be done quietly and continuously within the pulsating heart of every human being. All we need is simply to turn back to the beautiful, loving, and caring voice of creation embedded in our hearts by the mighty and loving hand that makes us humans. Let us recommit ourselves today to be more truthful and loyal to our conscience. Let it be the guiding star of our thoughts, words, actions, and decisions in our everyday lives. Then and only then can we find true and lasting peace and happiness in our individual lives, our families, cultures, communities, nations, and the world at large. I wish you all the happiness on this International Day of Conscience. I thank you. Oh, this world that God made is a place for love and care. So do not hate, but be kind. Everybody needs your love and care. And when somebody frowns at you, he's teaching you a lesson. And when somebody push you around, he's testing your love and care. And when somebody talks to you, it shows he needs you too. Because you're brothers and sisters and children of the same one God, the Father who loves you and him. Oh, the people that God made is a temple for love and care. So do not hate, but be kind. Everybody needs your love and care. And there are so many brothers and sisters around who would fulfill your intentions. No matter what they may look like, your Father loves them too. The love and care that they'll give you will make you happy too. Because they are brothers and your sisters and the children of the same one God, the Father who loves you and them. Oh, this world that God made is a place for love and care. So do not hate, but be kind. Everybody needs your love and care. Everybody needs your love and care, yeah, yeah. Everybody needs your love and care.
Dear Dr. Hong Daozi, if there ever was a need for to rely on people's consciousness, then it is today and now. The world is in a turmoil. Local wars are led, but threats are global. Only by awakening the consciousness of all people, real peace and cooperation among people, states, and nations. International Day of Consciousness has to be a motive and drive for permanent peace and cooperation. My dear friend, I congratulate your second International Day of Conscience. Best of regards from Zagreb.
Dr. Hong Daozi, President of the Federation of World Peace and Love. Distinguished Dr. Hong, with gratitude, I received the message you sent me on Dr. Souvel's recommendation regarding the Federation of World Peace and Love activities, dedicated to the celebration of the International Day of Conscience, April 5th, 2021. It is important to speak loud on the importance of conscience as one of the essential inner feelings and humankind values that allows us to do good and act right by our own will. Nowadays, more than ever in recent history, facing the COVID-19 pandemic, the international community needs to be reminded about conscience, especially when it comes to saving human lives by fair distribution of the vaccines against the virus. That is why I fully support FOPAL's dedication to providing platforms for promoting fundamental human values and striving towards accomplishing the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. I'm also championing your further cooperation with UNESCO and other UN agencies to achieve your organization's objectives. Please, Dr. Hong, receive the assurances of my highest considerations.
We are grateful for your support along our journey as we work together to spread love and create peace for all people. Some of our leaders requested to join us for a group discussion to share their conscience-guided experiences and the positive effects they have witnessed. Let's welcome them.
Hello, dear friends, and welcome to our discussion today in celebration of the second International Day of Conscience. We are glad to celebrate this day with all of you, as this day is a result of our joint efforts, and its future efforts will require and need all of our joint continuous efforts to flourish.
As we once again join in celebration of this important day, we are presented with an opportunity to reflect on what we have learned over the last year. And we are very pleased to welcome our dear friends and visionary leaders of conscience to share their insights into this meaningful topic.
We are proud to welcome Her Excellency Rosalia Arteaga Serrano, former President of the Republic of Ecuador. Welcome.
Thank you.
And we're honored to welcome His Excellency Anthony Carmona, 5th President of Trinidad and Tobago, and Mrs. Rima Harrison Carmona, former First Lady of Trinidad and Tobago. Hi. And a great friend of ours, Ms. Amina Wiwo, representing Flame of Peace from Bahrain. Welcome.
Hi.
And we now welcome the topics with Michael.
So we have two topics we want to talk about today, two main questions. One is how to promote conscience-driven actions in your community, country, circle, or beyond. And the other is to ask if you have a story of conscience to put into action, such as a policy or program that was guided by the principles of conscience that have had a positive effect on your community. You can answer either one of them, whichever sounds best and you have the best story for. So first, let's hear from Your Excellency Rosalia Arteaga Serrano, former President of the Republic of Ecuador.
Hello to everybody. First, thank you to invite me to be part of this very important celebration, the second time that FOPAL decided to celebrate this Conscience Day. And for me, especially Conscience Day is to take care about ourselves and what's our role on the world. In a selfish way, you can see only your benefit, but we are talking about a Conscience Day that means to celebrate how we can be how we can have the relations with other people. And one of the issues, a very important issue, is respect to the others. How we can handle it in a society that is very diverse, like in my own country in Ecuador and most of the countries of Latin America. We had extraordinary biodiversity. We are one of the most biodiverse countries on the world because we have the mountains, the sea, the Amazon jungle, the Galapagos Island, and we learn from the nature how we can be respecting the others, because if we have in our geography the amount of diversity, and we also have in people that the diversity. We have indigenous people, people that came from Africa, people that came from different parts inside our continent also, and also from Europe or Asia. But in our continent now we have a big migration situation with Venezuelans coming from their country to live in our countries. For example, in Ecuador, we have 500,000 of Venezuelans, and how we can receive them and have with them a joint venture, I said, to have a very good quality of life, how we can teach the students, the small kids, how we can provide them with food, how we can provide them with opportunities. That's for me a conscious day, the possibility to live together in peace, in harmony, being very conscious one to each other, how the other needs, how the other wishes, how the other dreams can fit with our dreams, our wishes, our reality. It is so important. And of course, maybe later I want to talk about a very personal experience, because I am the mom of a Down syndrome kid. And that's also a different kind of diversity and a different kind of respect that we have to create for the others.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I have to say, with all what you presented, made it more powerful, because you had a smile the whole time, and you can really feel the love that comes from you. And I agree, the respect is the start of it all, and it comes from our heart and what we want to do with the powers that we have to help people of all diverse corners of the world. So thank you for your presentation. And next, we'd like to welcome His Excellency, Mr. and Mrs. Carmona, for your presentation on today's topic. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It is my intention. Good day to all excellencies and Madam President. It's really a pleasure to see you once more. It is my intention, however, to deal with my former dispensation, when in fact I was the Director of Public Prosecutions, acting, and Deputy DPP, a former judge of the Supreme Court, a former United Nations prosecutor, and a former ICC judge. As a judge, I had to engage my judicial conscience to meet the ends of justice. And that judicial conscience manifested itself in many ways. It often defies definition, but not characterization, for it is often described as judicial activism. In 2009, when I was a senior judge on the criminal bench, among my many duties, apart from being a trial judge with trial overload, I was adjudicating in the bail court. I had by then been speaking in my sentencing judgments and trials for some time, that the man-child was in crisis in my society, a type of rally cry from the bench to my society to wake up to the reality that we were losing our young men between the ages of 17 to 30, generally to murder, gang warfare, and drugs. And that they were mired in the criminal justice system, charged with serious crimes, with potential trial dates years down the road. With every young face that came into my courtroom in handcuffs, accused of serious crimes, with tattooed tears running from their sunken eyes, I felt an increased sense of desperation triggered by the urgency of now. My judicial conscience lit up. Young men, many on bail, were dying, and life was being trivialized by the authorities, characterizing their deaths as gang-related, and that somehow made their deaths almost all right to society, because their deaths happened in another place, while those who ought or should have done something were ensconced in gated communities or had the required security or believed in a type of representative silence. My judicial conscience would awaken every time. I saw on the television news nightly displaying the bodies of young murdered men, either in canal, drains, or isolated bushes. As a result of that judicial conscience that I walk around with every day of my life, I started what was referred to as the Bail Boys Project in 2009, as a working component of restorative justice, a justice that heals rather than a justice that bleeds. The Bail Act allowed for conditions when an accused person is placed on bail. There is no system in Trinidad and Tobago analogous to bail houses in the United States. So the lower you are on the socioeconomic scale, the lesser the possibility of you being able to obtain bail with surety, even when granted. As a result, there were scores of accused persons awaiting trial for some 8, 9, 10 years without hope of coming to trial, given the overload of cases in the criminal justice system. These young men were dying on many levels. Apart from surety, the conditions were traditionally reporting conditions to police stations and distance orders to stay away from the victims of crime. A prisoner on remand for very serious offenses, attempted murder, rape, violent robbery, and assaults were not afforded any structured life skills training on the remand yard, primarily because then such training was exclusive to the convicted and not the transient accused, because when bail is assessed, they in fact can leave the prison. These young men appeared before me bitter and vicious. The first thing I did from a position of judicial conscience was that I apologized to them, the accused young men, for not having early trials. They were often shocked by that. I granted them bail, and I explored conditions never explored before. Instead of, for example, going to police stations to report where they were often harassed, verbally, and sometimes demeaned, I sent them to probation welfare officers. They were further exposed to psychologists and experts, some who were brought on board voluntarily to deal with anger management, substance abuse, self-esteem issues, sex education, parenting, and fiscal management, where accounts were open on their behalf. The probation welfare office, at the behest of the court, sought out jobs and got reports from employers on the industry. They were placed on curfews, required to reside at specific addresses. And if illiterate, one of the conditions of bail was to attend literacy classes. And if literate, to enroll in courses that were beneficial to them. Absenteeism would result in a breach of bail condition and possible revocation. We found jobs for them and facilitated by tweaking the hours of the curfew to accommodate their job responsibilities. Apart from that, I even went so far as suggesting, having met the chairman of City and Guilds, that in fact that they start courses in the remand prison so that it would result in universal certification and even matriculation. Because in the end, some of those very persons, in fact, who I dealt with, ended up attending university. Part and parcel of the support system were their girlfriends, parents, brothers, and sisters. And on a monthly basis, notwithstanding my onerous trial list, I would spend 7 or 8 hours reviewing their performance under the watchful eyes of their parents, relatives, and friends, with a probation officer sitting next to me in the court. There was a reward system in place for obeying curfews for special holidays, birthdays, and celebrations, and not violating bail conditions. This is not to say that recidivism did not occur, because the runner stumbles. And when they stumbled, bail was revoked for a few months to trigger reflection. I can say that while I presided over the Bail Boys project on the bench, out of 35 to 40 hardcore criminals, there were only 3 to 4 repeat offenders. Some got married, formed small contracting firms, offering their services to the court to employ other accused persons. In some instances, we moved gang members from the streets to upper secondary and tertiary education. What I have mentioned is not exhaustive, but for many years, I was the only judge who did what I was doing, since the other judges, and since then other judges had come on board. What this Bail Boy project did, it developed an environment of emotional intelligence and a capacity to respond to obligations and responsibilities. It was referred to as the Commoner model. You see, ladies and gentlemen, reduced powerlessness, low self-esteem and self-worth of prisoners and accused became learned hopefulness that generated ambition and reduced recidivism. The Commoner model was used as a blueprint, a roadmap for the new drug treatment court in April 2013 in Trinidad and Tobago. The Bale Boys Project whittled away the nothing work syndrome that parents and friends resile to in the face of juvenile and adult delinquency. It didn't stop there. When I was president, I made it my duty to go to death row, probably the only president in the world to visit death row prisoners, where I spoke with them, some of them languishing for 75 years. I went on the remand yard, where in fact I met some 30, 40 young criminals, persons accused of murder. And because of the sentencing regime, those young people would soon come out after their sentence to inspire them, to tell them that they're important, that there was somebody. And all this as a result of human conscience. Apart from that, it was all about restorative justice and ensuring, for example, that mediation and alternative dispute resolution, additionally, were part and parcel of certain NGOs. What I did as president is that I ensured that mediation and alternative dispute resolution techniques were taught by the Mediation Board of Trinidad and Tobago with the Girl Guides, were taught also with, in fact, the Red Cross, with the cadets, with the Boy Scouts, all with a view to creating model citizens who will be able to resolve dispute in fact, an ameliorative way, in a positive way. You see, at the end of the day, it is all about advocating the tenets of restorative justice, and all with a view to ensuring that we develop individuals who in fact can be model citizens in Trinidad and Tobago. I thought I would mention this because for a very long time we talk about what you do as president, but I felt there was a need to speak to the world at large in terms of what was done when I was a judge in the context of saving lives through conscience-driven action. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. One of the things I was inspired by from hearing you is there's a saying, the justice delayed is justice denied. And that is something clearly you were living as your role in the International Criminal Court, is seeing how people were being delayed justice and then implemented a policy of restorative justice to create model citizens using conscience and using your conscience to help create that environment. So it's a very beautiful story, and I think it's inspirational to everyone that hears that and a model to utilize around the world.
Thank you very much.
And your lovely wife, did she have something else to?
Indeed. You know, we are about woman power.
Morning, everyone. Good morning, Excellencies. Conscience-driven action continues to be the ultimate tool for change in this world of ours. I wish to share with you the story of my 13-year-old grandmother, who was a child bride. Though young and ambitious with the aspiration of becoming a teacher, she was forced to stifle her dream and was not able to fulfill those aspirations because of her child marriage. I do not want this to ever happen again to an innocent child of 13 years. In rural Trinidad and Tobago many years ago, this anomaly was a practiced cultural norm. As First Lady, I lent my voice to the advocacy against child marriages, and it bore fruit late in the day in 2017. Through conscience-driven advocacy, many homes over the years have been transformed into repositories of progressive thinking and facilitators of female empowerment and equality. Despite national legislation against child marriage and conventions and protocols on the rights of the child, the practice of child marriages remain widespread globally. The UNFPA has reported, and I quote, globally, 1 in every 5 girls is married or in union before reaching age 18. In the least developed countries, that number doubles. 40% of girls are married before age 18, and 12% of girls are married before age 15, end quote. Often I wonder how in conscience could a mother or father allow their young, beautiful daughter of 12 and 13 years to be married off like chattel, entering homes of conflict, becoming victims of domestic and sexual violence, with no hope of ever breaking that cycle. Child marriages must be deprecated, for it is a violation of fundamental human rights. In developed and developing countries, as a result of child marriages, girls lose the opportunity for education or career advancement under the guise of culture and religion. I make no apologies today when I say the issue is not culture and religion. Culture must evolve and adapt to enlightenment. It is rather a case of unmitigated control and male dominance. I was humbled to represent the Caribbean region and speak at the First Ladies of Africa Assembly at the United Nations, where I advocated for the end of child marriages in Africa as a critical part of Africa's Women Empowerment Agenda 2068. My entreaty was met with affirmative support. Our very conscience can make each and every one of us advocates of progressive action by sensitizing societies with a skewed perception or view based on entrenched cultural values. Conscience-based advocacy will lead to women empowerment, centering on the inherent right of women and young girls to understand their own bodies and to be able to shape, control, and be in charge of their own lives and their own destinies. Conscience-based advocacy will lead to institutional action so that our youths and young girls can access the best education, health services, and economic and social mobility. In the Caribbean region, we are burdened by high rates of obesity among our young children and young adults, coupled with alarming statistics of persons with non-communicable diseases, NCDs. As First Lady from 2013 to 2018, I advocated nationally and internationally against NCDs in real terms. I say in real terms because my advocacy starts in my home, in my very own kitchen, with the preparation of healthy foods and a balanced diet. And I continue my exercise routine around the Queen's Park Savannah in Port of Spain. This has resulted in my own children growing up to understand the importance of healthy lifestyles. And I have spread that message during my tenure to school children, even advocating that each student from primary to university level have a child health certificate with a view to taking charge of their lives and their health early o'clock. I am confident that I have assisted in cultivating a culture of healthy, active lifestyle with good eating habits and a proper regime of exercise. We must continue to listen to that inner voice of conscience that resides in us all. And if we do, we will operationalize in real terms what is required and what must be done to make this world of ours a just, fair, and equitable place for all. I thank you.
As we talk about the International Day of Conscience and using conscience to, bringing conscience into our cultures, is one of the important principles is every culture has very beautiful aspects, and then other aspects are artifacts of the past. And as you said, there's meaningful elements, but the artifacts that are not healthy to society, that really don't reflect modern sensibilities, we can get rid of those. And we end up, if we refine our cultures to look at the artifacts such as child marriage and eliminate those from our cultural aspects, we end up with a healthier, stronger, more conscience-driven culture that really creates a more peaceful and beautiful world. So I really appreciate your perspective in sharing that. Thank you. And then our next guest is Mrs. Amina Wiwu from the Peace of Flame.
Thank you so much. And I'm so happy and proud to talk here about the conscience, because this is something very, very important. And here I come. Article 1 of the Declaration of Conscience states that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights, and are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. So you see, here it comes. It all starts from us. Understanding, respecting each other. Diversity is richness, and we have to be there for each other. How can we be there for each other? We have to know each other. We have to become friends with each other. We have to value each other. You are black or white, whatever ethical background, whatever ethical diverse, because we are all one, we have to respect it. I have tried to connect people. Why I have tried to connect the people? Because connecting people makes them to understand each other better. That's why I organize conferences, different events where different nationalities meet each other, especially ladies. I do events for the ladies mostly nowadays, because I believe that women have the power to change the world. So that's why I am doing the events. And my goal and my vision is that we need to be connected. And with connection, we start to understand more each other. We start to value each other. We start to respect. We start to help. We give our helping hand when somebody else is in trouble, when somebody else needs help. We have to be there for each other. All starts from us. That's why I want to connect the world to be a better world. And I try to do as much as I can. And I hope that everyone makes a small even step forward, changing the world to a better one. Because if everybody just makes even a small step, I think this world will become a better place. Yeah, these are my thoughts.
Thank you, Amina. And we are now more connected than ever before because of COVID-19. We have to connect online, and I actually appreciate that part. You know, we are connecting around the world, and as Rosalia said earlier, I don't know, good morning, good evening. We're all over the place in different time zones, and we're actually very excited to move on to the next question about what conscience means to you personally or in your culture. And I know Ms. Rosalia mentioned that you have a personal story to share with us. So we now like to welcome Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. I already listened such an impressive speech about Conscious Day and what it means for everybody. But in my personal situation, as I told you, I had a Down syndrome kid. I was very young when he was my second kid. I already had one. And when my father, that is a doctor, a pediatrician, told me that I had a Down syndrome kid, I was at the beginning astonished. And I didn't understand what happens. But after a few days, I decided that it is a blessing for my family. It is a blessing. And I learned about Down syndrome, and I know for sure that they are happy kids. They have big smile all the time, and they need a lot of care, of course, but they bring a lot also with them and give the others all the happiness. Then I learned from that experience, because after a while I lost my baby because he had another problematic situations with his health. When I was thinking that I was going to die with him, I decided to write a book about my kid. The idea to write a book is at the beginning because of the catharsis that I need, because I really need something and want to say what I was feeling and how I feel with all these situations. But since the beginning, I was thinking about how to help other parents with these kind of situations, because in many countries, and my country was not the exception, have a Down syndrome or a kid with some disability was thinking something like really bad in families. And I try to transform this situation and to look at the positive side, how we can feel, how we can appreciate that diversity. And I think I really think that I was blessed, because I learned since the beginning how to deal with differences in any sense. most of my life, I had been an educator. I started to teach when I was 17, and the head of the school where I study before I graduate says, come and teach. And I was thinking, wow, I'm not prepared for teach. But well, I decided to take the opportunity and to start to teach. And I maintained myself like a teacher almost 20 years. And I also learn a lot when I teach, because I was in contact and very close contact with teenagers, girls teenagers, because it was a girls' school. And for me, education is the best tool for everything, to improve quality of life, to make a woman be more self-confident about our strongest personalities, how we can deal with family, with society, with politics, with business. And I most of my life, as I said, of course, I was a period in politics, but I decided to go back to work on education. Now I lead an NGO, and we work with teenagers, and we work with young people, with migrants, with teachers, because I think that teachers, we have to pay them a lot of respect, because they are changing societies, and they are working with the best material that we can have, that is the brain of the kids and the teenagers, and also the souls, the spirits, because we can give them role models, not only knowledge, but role models, ethics, values, and it's so important. And it has a lot to do with conscious, because if you are conscious about your potentialities, what we can do, and especially being a woman, I hear what Mrs. Carmona says, and of course, being a woman is not so easy in most of the societies. We have to work more to be recognized like equal, work more. And because we have 2-3 times duties and responsibilities more than men in our homes, and we work outside our homes. Then being conscious is so important in all levels of societies, in all the fields, because if we feel our responsibilities and we are conscious about what we are, what we want to achieve, how we can interact with the others, we can have a stronger societies. The pandemic showed us a lot of really very awful circumstances with the pandemic, and people dying, passing away, and getting the sickness. But on the other hand, we take the possibilities to work, as Judy says, using platforms, using all these tools that technology put in our hands. And also we can practice more than ever the need to be conscious about what is to be a human being.
So I think that conscience will guide us to be, basically we want to be conscience leaders, and we have with us several conscience leaders. And conscience will guide us to be educators and role models, providing us to empowering other people to overcome the challenges they face, especially when we teach them to use conscience to overcome their obstacles. And that's a common thread I've heard throughout all of the speakers, especially with what Rosalia just shared. So thank you very much. We want to next ask His Excellency Anthony Carmona and his lovely wife, Rima Harry-Singh Carmona, to share their perspective, share what conscience means in their culture, and other items they want to address.
Well, to all intents and purposes, there is a commonality throughout the world in terms of the tenets of conscience, in terms of doing right to each other in a manner that creates and supports the ascendancy of the human spirit. And this is what is so important with regard to conscience. It's a fundamental. It's an inner voice that tells us what is required and what needs to be done. Regrettably, the flame of conscience of many in the world today, especially among many of the world leaders, that flame is not as bright as it should be. And I always tell people that, I always tell persons that that a leader in every country should be the epitome of moral conscience for the society at large. You lead by example, and there are fundamentals that are required of leaders that sometimes you find terribly lacking. What is wrong with a leader saying, I am sorry? What is wrong with a leader saying, in fact, I empathize, I understand? What is wrong with a leader, in fact, driving by in his convoy and picking up a child on the road? The point I'm trying to make is that sometimes in leadership, sometimes in the context of power, we sometimes forget that one aspect of power is service. And that service must always trump power in the context of leadership. And I think if, in fact, we maintain that mantra in our daily lives, in our institutional lives, the world will be a better place.
Thank you. I'm personally deeply moved by what Mr. Carmona just mentioned, having someone who had such a high position as what people would see as, but having that heart. If I had a president like that, I would feel so proud. I would feel so proud to know that my president there is there to help me as a citizen, and not just because of that position, as it maybe seems beautiful, as a high rank with the power. So thank you. I thank you for that presentation. And
one thing I should that, in fact, I saw in classic terms man's inhumanity to man. Because, of course, I was a former United Nations prosecutor at the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, and also, in fact, for Rwanda. And I saw untold atrocities face to face. And I always tell persons, if you cannot learn from those tragic circumstances, then you will never learn. Because at the end of the day, in fact, one thing that we must always protect resolutely is our sense of humanity to each other.
Yes, and we must make sure that the flame in our heart, the conscience flame, continues to shine, to light up our own lives, but also light up the world. So thank you. Anything from Mrs. Carmona, or that encompasses both of yours?
I think I have basically, stated everything. The thing is that it is about standards that appreciate the magnanimity of the human spirit. That inner voice that inspires each and every one of us to do better in the exercise of our humanity. I hope that what I have stated before will inspire many people across the globe, because I find that even during the pandemic, with respect to violence against women, it has increased tremendously, and we always have to keep these things on the front burner, continue the advocacy, hope that, it continues to.
Thank you. I actually feel very inspired and motivated by today's discussion. I will continue to work hard to keep that love in my heart and continue to spread. And Amina, anything from your perspective on conscience in your culture or your personal life?
Yes, I wanted to, because I'm coming from two countries, you see, or I'm living in Bahrain, but I'm coming from Finland. So I have more diversity because I have the Finnish package, I have Bahraini package, and I can compare, I can see what I can do coming from Finland. But first of all, I wanted to mention one very important person. I will tell now. The United Nations endorsed on July 25th, 2019, a draft resolution submitted by the Kingdom of Bahrain to observe the International Day of Conscience on the 5th of April in response to an initiative by His Royal Highness former Premier Sheikh Khalifa bin Salman Al Khalifa. He passed away last year. He was very, very loved person here in Bahrain, really, very, very loved. The move was considered for Bahrain a new achievement in backing peace. It affirmed in endorsement preamble that the International Day of Conscience is a means to mobilize the international efforts regularly to foster peace, tolerance, integration, understanding, and solidarity in order to build a sustainable world based on peace, solidarity, and cohesion. So now about Bahrain. Bahrain is like the United Nations. Here, you just name who is not living. All the world is living here. I hope that you all have a chance to come to Bahrain, because really, living in Finland, I could not see this diversity. I did not see this, all these cultures I have seen here in Bahrain. I have learned a lot. I have stayed here for 12 years. And I tell you honestly, like a new world has opened in front of me. I never understood people who have nothing. I never understood why these people come here for work. I never understood so many things, and I have learned a lot, thanks to this, that Bahrain is really a big, big place, big heart for so many nationalities. We have mosques, we have churches, 19 different kind of churches. We have Jewish synagogue, we have 2 Hindu temples. You are free to have whatever religion you want to be, to serve and go to the mosque or whatever worship place. You are free to live here. You are free to be yourself as you are, and everybody respects each other. This is something so great, that everybody respects each other, whether you are wherever you are from. Everybody respects and loves each other, and the feeling here in Bahrain is like we are all one family. And even I go to the supermarket or somewhere, people talk to me. I talk to the people. Oh, where are you from? How are you doing? It feels so good, because the unity, this solidarity, unity, and feeling that we are all one, it's amazing here in Bahrain. This is what I wanted to point out. Good words about Bahrain.
It's a very beautiful thing. What we see is, that thread of conscience that weaves throughout every culture, every society. You have the melting pot of Bahrain, which gives opportunities to everybody, including the opportunity to have this International Day of Conscience. The Sheikh of Bahrain, he was a very strong advocate of that. And we are grateful for him and his role in bringing the International Day of Conscience into being. If there's one constant, it's that we will all confront many challenges in our lives. However, we have a guide to rely on to determine the best action to overcome whatever the challenge may be. That guide is our conscience. It helps us to distinguish right from wrong, good from bad, true from false. If we listen to our conscience, we can tap into the infinite source of wisdom, wisdom like what we have heard from the visionary leaders of conscience who have joined us today. It takes a great leader of conscience to see the worst in humanity and still maintain faith in the flame of conscience, nurturing it and passing it like a torch to make the world a better place. We hope that everyone is inspired every day to calm their hearts and listen to their conscience, then put that wisdom into action to become leaders of conscience, creating a better future for us all.
Yes, and indeed, we believe that every single one of us is a leader of conscience, possessing that key to activate the energy of peace. And so let us continue to work together to speak kind words, do good deeds, and exert that positive influence to all of people around the world. And as Dr. Hong has said, kind intentions and good hearts are the positive energies necessary to safeguard our sustainable development. So let us continue to work together. Thank you for your presentations today. It made me feel loved, and we hope the audience enjoyed it just as much as we did. So thank you. We'll see you next time.
Thank you very much. Good day of conscience.
Thank you to our speakers. With love and respect for the people in our leaders' hearts, a harmonious and sustainable future is definitely possible. Don't you think? In fact, we are all leaders in our own societies. Even the smallest kind act can generate a positive butterfly effect that spreads around the world. Many of our friends from around the world have taken the initiative to spread kindness through their daily lives. They sent us video messages in support of this day.
I want to thank each and every one of you with whom I am about to share these words. I would like to give thanks to the Peace and Love Federation FOPA, and special thanks to Dr. Hong Tausi, who has given me the honor to be part of such an occasion. We could define consciousness as the knowledge that the individual has of his thought, emotion, and action, acknowledging your surrounding and your own existence. The consciousness has a connotation regarding the sense of duty and ethical level, which allow you to distinguish between what is right and what is not. When taking action, one is bound to ethical values which reflect who we truly are. As humans, we are the only species with conscience. It provides us the ability to reflect on reality and take responsible action. It is our responsibility to be aware of, internalize it at every situation, when we act from a position of authority or simple as individual. There are many ways to promote awareness through our action in our community, country, and the rest of the world, among which are the conservation and well-being of our environment by minimizing and trying to prevent damage that come from sectors such as industrial, agricultural, commercial, and many more. When done in an unsustainable way, damage our ecosystem. It is necessary to involve social movements to promote and defend by policies and laws our environment, our biodiversity, and only use in a responsible manner our natural resources. Raising awareness of the importance of reducing our waste and recycle, opening up new alternatives, and promoting renewable energy in a way that each and every one of us become more conscious in the protection of our biodiversity. The key to all this is we become conscious of the fact that each and every one of us, habitant of our beloved planet Earth, take full responsibility of our action and start living in a culture of peace, love, and consciousness. We will all better off from our small communities, expanding this awareness to our big cities and throughout the entire world. Thank you.
Statement on the occasion of the Second International Day of Conscience. On Wednesday, the 5th of April, we celebrate for the second time the International Day of Conscience. This International Day was established by the United Nations General Assembly on the 25th of July 2019 with the adoption of Resolution 73/329 entitled Promoting a Culture of Peace and Love and Conscience. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights states that all human beings are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. Moreover, the statute of the International Criminal Code states that during this century, millions of children women and men have been victims of unimaginable atrocities that deeply shock the conscience of humanity. Hence, knowing that conscience is the wellspring of love and peace, the Federation of World Peace and Love has been advocating the importance of conscience for the promotion of peace. Its president, Dr. Hong Tao-che, officially kicked off the endorsement campaign for the declaration of International Day of Conscience at the United Nations and set April the 5th as International Day of Conscience. Many world leaders and organizations such as Unesco supported the idea, so that the General Assembly decided to adopt the above-mentioned resolution. In this resolution, the General Assembly made clear that it was conscious of the need for peaceful and friendly relations based on respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms for all, and then invited all member states to further promote the culture of peace with love and conscience. Therefore, conscience is really instrumental for peace, love, and brotherhood among nations. The concept of conscience is commonly used in its moral sense. It is the inherent ability of every healthy human being to perceive what is right and what is wrong, and on the strength of this perception to monitor, evaluate, and execute actions. In any case, the true conscience should be enlightened by true values such as love, compassion, brotherhood, respect of the environment, spiritual creeds, and so on. Because conscience is the highest authority and evaluates information to determine the quality of an action. In other words, conscience ranks higher than consciousness. Conscience means awareness of awareness or self-awareness, which is capable of introspection. Hence, conscience is the compass in people's hearts, and like a compass, it guides them to become kind, wise, compassionate, and tolerant. Nevertheless, each human being should have a right and a pure conscience. That can achieve by true education, mainly within one's family and at school, under the guidance of UNESCO, and with the contribution of the civil society, state, and international community. In addition, through beliefs, faith, or religions may also help educating people's conscience. During this month of April, Jews are commemorating Pesach or Passover, and Christians the Holy Week or Easter, while Muslims will start the holy month of Ramadan. May all these believers purify their conscience and cover the entire world with blessings and positive energy in the spirit of human brotherhood. In this strange times. This COVID-19 pandemic has clearly shown that in our globalized world, peoples and nations are interlinked. With united efforts, hearts, and conscience, we can overcome this pandemic. To sum up, this International Day is the occasion to recall that humanity is only one family and should be cherished by every individual, guided by a true conscience. I thank you very much for your attention.
Hello everyone, I'm Selima Ahmed, Member of Parliament from Bangladesh. I'm also President of Bangladesh Women Chamber of Commerce and Industry. As all of you know, that we want to see our world with peace, no war. We want to see that we love each other, and we want to see that our conscience works for equality. We want to see that no one get harmed, no one is killed, no one face any violence. And that's why we all are working together. I want to thank my friends from Korea that they are working so hard and bringing all of us in the same basket and in the same goal so that we can all work to bring peace. And definitely with togetherness, we can do it. And we need to also follow the principle of consciousness, because that will give us a guidelines so that we can make a better world for ourselves, for our elderly generation, and also for our children. All of you stay safe, stay healthy. Bye-bye.
My name is Sergio Duarte, and I am a retired Brazilian ambassador. In July 2019, the United Nations adopted unanimously the resolution that declared April 5 as the International Day of Conscience. Since then, this date has been commemorated in every corner of Earth by individuals and nations in order to spread the resolve to unite and to promote positive action in all spheres of life: family, society, nation, and the planet as a whole. The decision to institute a National Day of Conscience is an important landmark for the achievement of a culture of peace, since the power of conscience is a necessary tool for the realization of this endeavor. The Constitution of UNESCO, the United Nations Organization for Education, Science and Culture, states that peace must be founded in the intellectual and moral solidarity of mankind. This is the basis of the effort to build a culture of peace, in which every human being has a contribution to make and from which all benefit. It encompasses values, attitudes, and forms of behavior directed toward respect for the rights of all human beings, acceptance of differences and understanding among nations, as well as rejection of all forms of violence. Acting in conformity with these basic tenets increases our individual capacity for promoting a culture of peace through conscience. At present, the world faces a most dangerous pandemic that has so far affected almost 75 million people and claimed the lives of 3 million worldwide. Unfortunately, its ferocity does not seem to abate, and new variants threaten countries where a significant decrease of cases had been observed not too long ago. On April 2, 2020, 1 year ago, As the COVID-19 pandemic spread worldwide, the General Assembly of the United Nations adopted by consensus Resolution 74-270, recognizing the need for a global answer based on unity, solidarity, and renewed multilateral cooperation. People with conscience expressed the hope that the global health emergency would stimulate cooperation among nations for the definition and adoption of solidarity measures to confront this unprecedented challenge. The World Health Organization, WHO, acted to disseminate reliable information on the evolution of the disease and to find ways to prevent contagion and increase the production and distribution of vaccines. However, decisive action with the determined support of the international community as a whole is necessary if we are to realize the objective of providing immunization to everyone, including the most vulnerable populations in developing countries. The effects of the inequality between richer and poorer countries with regard to the ability to confront the pandemic requires greater attention by world leaders and from every person who adheres to the values of love and solidarity. The mentality and practice of me first is contrary to conscience and reflects a narrow and parochial view of the national interest to the detriment of common good, leading to postures that may have disastrous consequences in a not too distant future. No country will be safe, regardless of its capacity to immunize all its citizens, as long as all countries are not safe. A concentrated effort by the richer countries, in cooperation with the remainder of the international community, with the goal of finally controlling the pandemic worldwide, should not be understood as charity or selfless humanitarian assistance. On the contrary, it is in the interest and benefit of all. It is imperative to prevent COVID-19 from becoming endemic or to resurface periodically in the form of new and more contagious and lethal variants to haunt the world and decimate entire populations, as was the case with the ancient Middle Age plagues. We know from experience with SARS and MERS, and now from COVID-19, that viruses of lethal respiratory diseases develop from animals. As the predatory action of human beings on the environment shrinks the habitat of many species, increasing the chances of direct contact, the possibility of the rise of new pandemics increases. Unfortunately, humanity as a whole seems far from understanding the need to live in harmony with nature. The harsh conditions brought by the pandemic should serve as a reminder and as an encouragement for everyone to self-reflect and follow their conscience. More than ever, the sustainable future of humanity depends on our own conscience-driven actions. Thank you.
Hello, this is Congresswoman Norma Torres. Empathy, compassion, conscience. These are all the things we need a little more of, not only now, but in weeks and years to come. To solve many of the challenges we face, there is nothing more powerful than respect for your fellow world citizens. And as we begin the process of rebuilding from this pandemic, we must think about our ability to improve our community and the lives of our neighbors. If we embrace tolerance and support for one another, we can deliver more compassionate solutions to those who desperately need them. The Federation's mission is exactly what we need to promote an environment of inclusion through understanding. And as someone who came to this country as a young child, I would never have found a better life without the compassion and humanitarianism of my family and neighbors. All of us want to live in a country where we care for one another. And that's the country we are all working for. We have the ability to empower those around us by embracing all that this day celebrates. Thank you to the Federation of World Peace and Love for inviting me to join you today, and happy International Day of Conscience.
Hello, I'm State Senator Josh Newman, and I proudly represent California's 29th Senate District, which includes the city of Walnut. It's my honor to represent you in our state capitol and to celebrate the second International Day of Conscience with you today. A founding premise of the United Nations is ridding our planet of the scourge of war by facilitating dialogues between nations and groups. Accomplishing this goal, a world without the need for violence to achieve prosperity, has been hard. Ridding ourselves of prejudice and discrimination has proved an equally large challenge, as recent events have sadly made clear. That's why the International Day of Conscience was created, to tackle the root issues at the heart of continuing violence around the world. The International Day of Conscience celebrates the highest aspirations of humankind, the desire for peace and prosperity for all people. Creating a new world of peace, solidarity, and harmony will not be easy. We must all continually recommit ourselves to comprehensive education, social involvement, and civic action. The Federation of World Peace and Love has been an institution for over 20 years. In that time, you have worked tirelessly to instill the idea of peace and love and to promote a prosperous world. As testament to its dedication and its reach, the Federation now has members in over 95 countries, encouraging all their members to engage with their communities in volunteering and spreading the ideals of a more peaceful world. I'm proud and duly impressed that members of our own community of Walnut have taken up this mantle. I wish everyone in the Federation of World Peace, from Dr. Untitled Chapter to each member of the organization, my very best wishes, and I want to convey my commitment to assisting you in your efforts as your state senator. Please stay safe as we make our way through what we all hope is the last phase of the current pandemic. I look forward to seeing you all in person and supporting your very admirable efforts as part of next year's celebration. Thank you.
Hello, I'm California State Senator Susan Rubio. I want to thank the Federation of World Peace and Love for allowing me to say a few words to celebrate the International Day of Conscience. The world recognizes days like these to educate the public, rally political will and resources to address global issues, and to celebrate the achievements that connect us as humanity, as an immigrant who endured poverty, violence, and deportation at an early age. I know how important it is for all of us to open our hearts and be mindful of other people struggling. We need to promote the idea of peace, tolerance, and understanding, and know that that's the only path where we could all live in harmony without humanity crying out for help. As a California legislator, I have made it my priority to protect the marginalized and those suffering from homelessness. These people are our brothers, our sisters, our neighbors, and historically have been without a voice. But this is a new age, a time when we all lift their voices up, listen to them, and find new ways to help them live in dignity. I know as a global community, we can do better. So today, as we celebrate International Day of Conscience, let us recommit ourselves to reaching out to others and fostering a common humanity that will unleash a spring of giving and goodness. Let that be our mission moving forward. Thank you.
Bugün Birleşmiş Milletler Dünya Vicdan Günü. Bugünün mensuplarından biri olarak öncelikle böyle bir oluşumun varlığını yaratan Doktor Tao Tze'ye teşekkür ederek sözlerime başlamak istiyorum. Bizleri bir yıldan beri bir zaman sürecinde iş yapamaz, seyahat edemez, sokağa çıkamaz bir ortama taşıyan COVID-19 pandemisine rağmen Birleşmiş Milletler'de başarıyla oluşturulan Dünya Vicdan Günü'ne ve beni buraya kabul eden başta Honorable Doktor Hong Tao Tze olmak üzere bütün arkadaşlarımıza tekrar teşekkür ederek sözlerime başlamak istiyorum. Bugün Dünya Vicdan Günü. Gene bugün COVID-19 karşısında bir yıldır çaresiz bir insanlık var. Gene bugün Afrika'da hala COVID-19 aşısı ile tanışmamış milyonlarca insan var. Gene bugün Orta Doğu'da her gün insanlar birbirini öldürüyor. Gene bugün Myanmar'da kendi insanını öldüren yöneticiler var. Gene bugün ayrımcılık ve ırkçılık en uygar ülkelerde bile hala varlığını sürdürüyor. Gene bugün kız çocuklarının eğitimine izin vermeyen güçler var. Gene bugün istemsiz göç insanların kendilerine yeni vatanlar aramalarına neden oluyor. Gene bugün insan ticareti ve istismarı dünyanın gündeminden düşmüyor. Gene bugün uyuşturucu çeteleri insanları zehirlemeye devam ediyorlar. Gene bugün dünyamızın çeşitli bölgelerinde çatışma, kaos ve sosyal ve de ekonomik krizler yaşanıyor. Daha bunun gibi nice kötülüklere rağmen insanlık varlığını muhafaza ediyor. Zira varlığını sürdüren insanlığın rehberi vicdandır. Vicdan bir deniz feneri gibi insanlığın geleceğini aydınlatmadıkça ne barış ne de istikrar olacaktır. Oysa geleceğimiz için istikrara ve barışa ihtiyacımız bulunmaktadır. Barışın ve istikrarın anahtarı vicdanlı nesiller yetiştirmekten geçmektedir. Geleceğimizi sorumlu olduğu kadar vicdanlı gençlere emanet etmekle zorunluyuz. Bu da ancak eğitimle, dünya genelinde çocuklarımıza vicdan şuurunu öğretmekten geçmektedir. Ayrıca bir başka sorumluluk da din adamlarına düşmektedir. Din adamlarının müminlerine vicdanlı olmayı öğretmeleri şarttır. Vicdan, okulda, ibadethanede ve hayatta yer almadıkça barışa da, istikrara da ulaşamayız. Onun için ben Doktor Hong Tao'da-Tize ve arkadaşlarını böyle bir konuda öncülük ettikleri için önemsiyorum. Tebrik ediyorum. Ümit ediyorum ki bu çalışmalarımız insanlığın barış, istikrar evinde yeni bir pencere açacaktır. Dünya Vicdan Günü kutlu olsun.
Namaste from the beautiful subcontinent of India. Honorable Dr. Hong Tao-se, President of the Federation of World Peace and Love, Excellencies, distinguished co-speakers, ladies and gentlemen. The 5th of April, as we all know, has been designated by the United Nations as the International Day of Conscience. My heartfelt felicitations to FOPAL on the magnificent occasion of the 2nd International Day of Conscience, and warm greetings to everyone across the world on this very special day. We realize that the world can become harmonious, peaceful and prosperous when we emphasize on moral ethics and conscience within us. So firstly, let's understand what is conscience. From my perspective, it is that part of the mind that tells you if what you're doing is right or wrong. So in a way, it is a very powerful and critical aspect of your thinking process because it is helping you to demarcate your way ahead, to distinguish what you should do and what you should not do. So you have to let that voice speak from within. because it is your closest and most trusted friend and confidant. And your conscience, most importantly, won't ever lie to you. So, as long as you're actively listening to your conscience, you won't go wrong in the choices you make. So now imagine your conscience telling you the right from the wrong at every step, and you, like a good human being, listening to all the goodness you can bring to yourself and people around you. What do you think it's going to lead to? Goodness, probably raised to the power infinity. Happiness, raised to the power infinity. Purity of your soul, raised to the power infinity. Sensitivity and compassion and empathy and care, again, raised to the power infinity. So many attributes could be raised to the power infinity. Goodness triggers goodness and grows multifold. If I'm good to you and I respect you and your rights as a human being, chances are very strong that you will also be good to me and respect me and my human rights. So conscience has the capability to create a monumental difference in human behavior and relations. The gap may, however, come when we don't pay enough attention to our conscience. For instance, if we look at day-to-day lives in the current times of the pandemic, we've unfortunately seen a rise in domestic violence across the world. Largely speaking, people were limited to the four walls of their homes in the lockdown for weeks and months, especially last year, and unfortunately, their patience ran out. Their desperation, their uneasiness, their low levels of tolerance completely took over their personalities. They probably stopped listening to their conscience. For example, hypothetically, instead of, let's say, a husband helping his spouse in the daily chores and upkeep of the home, taking care of the children, etc., didn't seem to be consistently participant and helpful. Instead, he was frustrated and irritable and abusive and lost sight of the human rights of his spouse. The spouse, on the other hand, was not only doing all the physical work and chores and had tremendous fatigue and despair, but also bore the brunt of verbal or physical abuse. Sometimes even children have had to cope with this stress from angry and frustrated parents. And this is all an outcome of not listening to the voice of your conscience. So what I'm saying is that the role of conscience is critical to your core functionality. The choices you make, the decisions you take, your thoughts, your actions, your beliefs and your responses. If you activate your conscience levels, you will not only respect your own rights, but also respect others and their human rights. I think it's time for people to also enhance their life skills like empathy, effective communication, coping with stress and emotions, decision making and problem solving, critical thinking, etc., and become more sensitized to the goodness we all innately have as human beings. After all, it is human for us to find solutions. I also believe that an educated mind has higher chances to rationalize better and make more informed choices. And I certainly think that everyone must be better informed about their own rights as well as the rights of others for the larger good of global society. We need to learn to live and let live. And like I said earlier, your conscience can play a very pivotal role in facilitating the understanding of human rights, as long as you listen to it carefully and act accordingly. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, Dr. Tao Tse Hung and the Federation of World Peace and Love for inviting us to participate in this conference. Today we celebrate the second International Day of Conscience. On April 5th, 2019, the United Nations declared the International Day of Conscience with the aim of creating conditions of stability and well-being and relationships based on respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms for all, without distinction based on race, sex, language, or religion. I'm a teacher, so understanding what we're talking about is essential to me. In observing this day, it would well behoove us to know what the word conscience means. Referring to dictionaries such as the Merriam-Webster, we find the word conscious was first used in the 13th century and comes from the Latin consciere, to be conscious of guilt, from com and sierra, to know. It seems clear that conscience is based on knowledge rather than ignorance or misunderstanding. This day promotes relationships based on respect for human rights. We need to ensure that we are not ignorant or misunderstand what human rights are. Most people talk about human rights, but do not know what that means, especially from a global perspective. In total, 193 countries support the 1948 United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Education is key. Youth for Human Rights International aims to teach the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights and inspire our youth to become advocates for tolerance and peace. We developed easy-to-use and easy-to-understand materials that are available online in 17 languages and completely free at www.youthforhumanrights.org. A young 5-year-old child with disabilities was bullied by her classmates. Her mother showed her our little videos and then used those videos to educate those bullies about human rights. The bullying stopped and they all became friends. Education helps transform ignorance or misunderstanding into building bridges of understanding. Let's continue to learn, educate, and inspire respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms for all. Together, let's make every day a day of conscience.
We'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you to our online community for your support over this past year. It's been an amazing year with nonstop celebration of important international days. Whether it is to raise awareness or to give encouragement when we speak from the heart, we can have a lasting impact on ourselves and encourage us to take action for justice, equality, and love and peace. Today, we have specially prepared a song that reflects the courage of the heroes around the world who have worked tirelessly to make the world a better place. We'd now like to present you with the song, The Flag of Conscience.
People in the darkness need someone.
the flag of conscience within our hearts wave high and proud. Next, a group of youngsters got together to create this next video to express what is in their heart and how they see the future. Please enjoy their presentation. With Conscience We Wish.
COVID-19 has killed more than 300,000 people as Myanmar's military continues a brutal crackdown on dissent.
Protesters at a Black Lives Matter march to the port city.
At least 13 people have been killed.
Convincing skeptics to get the vaccine is easier said than done, especially in rural areas that have...
It's like the world's falling apart, and we're in the middle of the chaos. Insecure, anxious, drained, helpless, and hopeless.
When I turn on the news or look at the world, my heart aches, and I don't know what to do.
I can't help but wonder, couldn't we do better? So I take a step forward, not knowing where to go. But I follow my heart and I believe. Along the way, I see others striving to do good. And I realize I'm not alone. We all follow the same conscience. We all wish for a better world. United by conscience, together we wish. May each of us open our hearts and appreciate ourselves. May we all accept our differences and support each other. May the world be blessed and be healed. We might be small, but our heart is big. To care and to love, for peace and for justice.
May we build a common future as one. May we create peace with love and conscience.
I really like that they said in the video, we may be small, but our heart is big. Have you also felt the same before? We hope our virtual events have inspired you. It is quite empowering to know that no matter where we are or where we came from, we can make a difference and change the world. Thank you for joining us today. Be sure to join the second session in celebration of the Second International Day of Conscience. The program will be aired on April 6th, 7 a.m. GMT. Thank you and see you later.
Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Abdulatif bin Rashid Al Zayani expressed the Kingdom of Bahrain's pride in the celebration of the world on the 5th of April each year of the International Day of Conscience, noting that the kingdom is convinced that the human conscience is the real motive for promoting the values of peace, coexistence, and fraternity among all nations. The minister noted that the Kingdom of Bahrain, thanks to the leadership of His Majesty King Hamid bin Isa Al Khalifi and his wise vision to promote the values of tolerance, coexistence, and brotherhood for the good and peace of the world, believes that the international community must bear in mind the importance of global conscience in resolving conflicts and ending crises, stopping wars, and spreading the values of peace and coexistence for the benefit of humanity. He added that Bahrain is proud of being a pioneer in the United Nations adoption of the 5th of April as an International Day of Conscience based on the initiative by the late His Royal Highness Prince Khalif bin Salman Al Khalifa as the kingdom recognizes that various countries in the world are suffering from serious problems such as poverty, hunger, and disease, and believes in the necessity of international cooperation to reach urgent solutions to global problems. The minister stated that the kingdom, led by His Majesty the King, has been keen to deal with the COVID-19 crisis in accordance with the rules of international laws and covenants, while also upholding the ideals and values that the kingdom believes in, including sympathy, brotherhood, and humanitarian cooperation among the peoples of the world. He added that Bahrain has handled the crisis and its repercussions of the pandemic with the utmost political and humanitarian responsibility and provided citizens and residents with free tests, treatment, and vaccination, as well as all necessary health and social services. The minister called upon the international community to exercise its conscience in order to achieve justice and equality to support the countries most affected by this serious crisis, and to address the many problems afflicting developing and poor countries. We confide in the United Nations organization due to its sincere leadership and its specialized organizations and bodies efficiently lead the global efforts towards a safer, more stable, and prosperous world for the good of all humankind.
World Humanitarian Drive presents, promoting a culture of peace with love and conscience, celebrating International Day of Conscience, with global leaders, His Excellency Anthony Carmona, SCORTT, 5th President of Trinidad and Tobago, His Excellencies Vunivalau Mandla Mandela, and Nkosi Chief and grandson of His Excellency Nelson Mandela, on 5th of April 2021, 2:30 p.m. UK. Join us on our Facebook page. Calling upon everyone to celebrate diversity and inclusiveness, striving for humanity.